message is don't skip over these words. Now, I have a story to tell you, or rather, I'm not going to tell it to you. I'm going to let you listen, and then we'll take it from there after that.
Going on there. Now, Donna, you got quite the vent today. It sounds like what's going on with you.
Well, I wanted to voice my opinion on something that's been bothering me for a really long time.
Okay.
I tried writing the newspaper and contacting TV stations, but nobody seems to want to stay with this. So that's why I'm calling you guys.
Okay. What's the issue?
Well, over the past few years, I've been involved in 3 separate car accidents involving deer.
Mm-hmm.
With the population and everything. Each of these incidents, they've occurred shortly after I saw a deer crossing sign on the highway. Well, my frustration is that Minnesota and North Dakota Departments of Transportation would allow these deer crossings to be in such high traffic areas. I mean, I've even seen them on the interstate. Why are we encouraging deer to cross at the interstate? I don't get it. That's such a high traffic area. I mean, I understand that deer are wild animals and they need to travel across the streets occasionally to survive. And now, of course, there's nice food, but it seems to me that so irresponsible of us to allow these deer crossings to be in areas where these deer are so likely to be struck by oncoming traffic. I mean, wouldn't you agree? I mean, it's just, I mean, you think they would put deer crossings maybe, in, smaller towns, maybe during at a school crossing. It would be a safer place for them to cross.
Wait.
For the deer crossing sign.
Deer crossings aren't telling deer that it's safe to cross there. It's just more of like an alert for drivers so they know it's like a high deer population.
The government put the deer crossings there. They can direct the deer population anywhere they want to by moving that deer crossing sign. I mean, why in the world would they place it on the highway or the interstate? I mean, God, there are so many other places I can think of than putting the deer crossing signs on busy highways and interstate.
You seem to be under the misunderstanding that the deer are somehow attracted to the deer crossing sign.
Well, yeah, the deer crossing sign is there to allow the deer to know that's where they need to cross.
Right. And all these car accidents you had involved a deer after you saw a deer crossing sign.
Exactly. I mean, I'm trying to watch out for the deer, but, I mean, speed limit's 55, 65. How am I supposed to, you can't brake really quick if if the deer just is crossing in that deer crossing area.
So you'd like to see these signs move somewhere safer?
Right. If we can move them, like, don't put deer crossing signs on the interstate or freeways. Put them in lower traffic areas. Somewhere where the speed limit's, a lot slower. Maybe small towns. I don't know. I think school crossings is a good idea.
Well, listen, we will. You say you tried to contact quite a few people about this.
Right, yeah, I wrote like at least 3 or 4 letters, and
we will spread the word. Okay, we will try to kind of help you raise some awareness for this issue. Okay.
Oh, thank you. We need to move those deer crossing signs.
We appreciate your comment this morning.
All right, thanks.
Bye.
Okay, there you have it. Now, this is a situation where when we don't understand what's being interpreted or what we don't understand what's being read. Now, initially I thought that this woman was just faking it, but she was actually for real. This is a woman who actually thought that a deer crossing sign attracted deers to cross at designated areas. There are people out there like this. When we don't understand words, it can impact the concept of what's being said. For instance, I'll give you an example. Now, I like to read from the King James version of the Bible first because of its original or from its original interpretations or wordings, as opposed to when it's translated into today's version, sometimes it can be a little skeptical or iffy. I'm going to read from the Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 5. And this is the King James Version. I am black, but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon. Okay, now I'm going to switch it to the Amplified Bible. It says, I am deeply tanned, but lovely, O daughters of Jerusalem, like the tents of Kedar, like the curtains of Solomon. Now, the difference with that is it says, I am deeply tanned. It doesn't say I'm black. It says deeply tanned. And I know people will say, well, that it means the same thing. Not necessarily. And I also think of it this way also. Now, that being in the Amplified Bible, and the Amplified Bible is supposed to uh, give a better description, give a better meaning, give make things more updated versus the old way of saying things, the King James version of saying things. But you can't be any more descriptive than saying black as opposed to deeply tanned. Why was there need to change it to deeply tanned? Do you get what I'm saying? Do you get my point? But that's for another subject, for another time, for another matter. And moving along, sometimes the words in the Bible may be hard to pronounce, and we tend to skip over it. Like, for instance, the word antiquity. Uh, let's go to Isaiah chapter 23, verse 7. Now, I'll give you a few seconds to get to it. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through several words in the Bible that we tend to skip over. And for me, the importance of just going into these words and finding out what they mean, I think is very important in understanding what the word is saying itself. Because how can we read something and there be a key word in there and we don't understand? But the revelation of this is when we do understand these words, it opens up it opens up a whole new meaning. It opens up that word itself that's being said. It basically gives life to what's being said, to what's being stated, and to what is to be meant by what's stated. You can read the Bible many times, and I've done so. But when you come across, say, a particular topic or word, and it could be 10, 12, 15 years later, and then when you have a better understanding of what's being said, you get a new revelation on that word. Okay, now let's read Isaiah chapter 23, verse 7. And it says, is this your jubilant city, whose origin dates back to antiquity, whose feet used to carry her to colonize distant places? Now, excuse me, I was reading from the Amplified. Let me switch that up and go back to the King James Version. Okay, let me start over again on that. Verse 7. Is this your joyous city whose antiquity is of ancient days? Her own feet shall carry her afar off to sojourn. Okay, so the word here is antiquity. Antiquity means the ancient past. The ancient past. The ancient days of past. So when I read it again, it says, is this your joyous city whose days are past. Okay. Okay, let me clear this up. Let me clear that up because I didn't like the way I presented that. I'm just keeping it real. I'm reading it again. Is this your joyous city, whose past is of ancient days? Her own feet shall carry her afar off to sojourn. Okay, now that's better. Okay, here's the next word, betrothed. Now let's go to Hosea chapter 2, verse 19. Hosea chapter 2, verse 19. And it says, and I will betroth thee unto me forever. Yea, I will betroth thee unto me in righteousness, and in judgment, and in loving kindness, and in mercies. Okay, the word betroth means enter into agreement to marry. So let's read that again. And I will enter into an agreement to marry you unto me forever. Yea, I will marry you unto me in righteousness, and in judgment, and in loving kindness, and in mercies. There you have it. Okay, the next one is concupiscence. Now, this one was a tongue twister for me, and I had to I had to Google it so I could pronounce it correctly. And it's spelled CONCUPISCENCE. And it's in the book of Colossians, chapter 3, verse 5. I'll say that again, Colossians chapter 3, verse 5. And it says, mortify therefore your members which are upon the earth, fornication, uncleanliness, inordinate affection, evil, concupiscence, and covetousness, which is idolatry. Now, you got two tongue twisters of words in there. So the meaning of concupiscence is strong sexual desire or lust. It's strong sexual desire or lust. So I'll read it again. Mortify therefore your members which are upon the earth, fornication, uncleanliness, inordinate affection, evil, and strong sexual desires or lust, and covetousness, which is idolatry. Okay, the word is effeminate. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 9. And it says, a man who shows the characteristics of a woman. Now I'll read that again. It says, know ye not that the unrighteous shall not inherit the kingdom of God? Be not deceived, nor fornicators, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor men who show themselves with the characteristics of a woman, nor abusers of themselves with mankind. Now you see how things begin to flow a little better. You get a better understanding when you know the true meaning of a word instead of trying to guess it or gloss over it or skip over it. And then when you basically put that meaning in there, then you get a better understanding of what's going on. Okay, my next word is firmament. And that's in Genesis chapter 1, verse 6. And it says, and God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And firmament means the heavens or the sky. So read it again. And God said, let there be a sky in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. Our next word is Gentiles. Let's go to Matthew chapter 10, verse 5. Matthew 10, verse 5. And it says, These 12 Jesus sent forth and commanded them, saying, Go not into the way of the Gentiles, and into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not. Now, the meaning of the word Gentiles is a person who is not Jewish. So let's read this again. These 12 Jesus sent forth and commanded them, saying, Go not into the way of those who are not Jewish, and into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not. Okay, our next word is haughty. That is Haughty. And that's in 2 Samuel chapter 22, verse 28. And I'll read it. And it says, And the afflicted people thou wilt save, but thine eyes are upon the haughty, and they mayest bring them down. Now, the word haughty means someone who is conceited, or someone who has an superiority about themselves and very arrogant. Okay, so let me read this again and we'll flip it around. And the afflicted people thou wilt save, but thine eyes are upon the conceited, that thou may bring them down. The next word is murmur. And this is in Numbers chapter 14, verse 27. And it says, How long shall I bear with this evil congregation which murmur against me? I have heard the murmurings of the children of Israel, which they murmur against me. Now, the word murmur simply means complain. So let's flip this around and say it again. How long shall I bear with this evil congregation, which complain against me? I have heard the complaints of the children of Israel, which they complain against me. Okay, we got another tongue twister here, and it's pronounced obeisance. It's spelled Obeisance, obeisance. And it's in Genesis chapter 37, verse 7. And it says, For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf arose, and also stood upright, and behold, your sheaves stood round about, and made obeisance to my sheaf. The word obeisance means paying great respect or displaying great respect. So I'll read it again. For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf arose, and also stood upright, and behold, your sheaves stood round about, and made obeisance, or showed great respect to my sheaf. And also, let me throw in what this word chef means. It's spelled Sheaf. Now, on that note, I had to correct myself because, first of all, it's pronounced sheaf. It's Sheaf. It's pronounced sheaf. So I had to correct myself on that. And it's a bundle of grains of stalk. Okay? So let me read this again. For behold, we were binding stalks in the field, and lo, my stalk arose, and also stood upright, and behold, your stalks stood round about, and made great respect to my stalks. So all in all, even for me now, I have a better understanding of what was being said in that verse, in that passage. Okay, now we come to one of my favorite words, something that I figured out on my own several years ago, and the word is peradventure, and it's in Genesis chapter 24, verse 39, and it says, "And I said unto my master, peradventure the woman will not follow me." Now, the word peradventure means suppose or perhaps. So let's flip this around and read it again. And it says, "And I said unto my master, suppose the woman will not follow me." Now, doesn't that sound a lot better? And don't you have a better understanding when we say it that way? Okay, here's the next one. It's rent. And it's also in Genesis chapter 37, verse 33. Ready? Read. "And he knew it and said, It is my son's coat, and evil beasts have devoured him. Joseph's, is without doubt rent in pieces." Now, the word rent means tore or tear. Now, read it again. "And he knew it and said, It is my son's coat, and evil beast has devoured him. Joseph is without doubt torn in pieces." Again, now you get a better understanding of what was being said. And the next word is sojourn, a word that I had mentioned earlier, but now we're going back to it. And let's go to Genesis chapter 19, verse 9. "And they said, Stand back. And they said again, This one fellow came in to sojourn, and he will needs be a judge. Now we will deal worse with you than with them. And they pressed sore upon the man, even Lot, and came near to break the door." The word sojourn means to temporarily stay or a temporary stay. So now I'm going to read it again. And that was, again, Genesis chapter 19, verse 9. "And they said, Stand back. And they said again, This one fellow came in to stay for a little while or temporarily stay, and he will needs be a judge. Now we will deal worse with you than with them. And they pressed sore upon the man, and even Lot, and came near to break the door." All right, the next word is throng, which is in Mark chapter 3, verse 9. And this says, "And he spoke to his disciples that a small ship should wait on him because of the multitude, lest they should throng him." Now, the word throng means a large, densely packed crowd. So upon that, we flip it and read it this way. "And he spoke to his disciples that a small ship should wait on him because of the multitude, lest they pack him in a densely crowd." And sometimes, even with the true meaning, it still doesn't sound right, or at least in relation to what's being said, but you still go with it. Okay, the next word is usury. And this is in Exodus chapter 22, verse 25. "If you lend money to any of my people that is poor by thee, thou shalt not be to him as an usurer, neither shalt thou lay upon him usury." All right, now the word usury means lending money at high interest rates. In other words, that day's loan shark. Yeah, I read it again. "If you lend money to any of my people that is poor by thee, thou shalt not be to him as a usurer, neither shalt thou lay upon him." Now how I put this? Lay upon him high interest rates. Okay, now that sounds more better and less confusing. Our next word is vex, which is in Exodus chapter 22, verse 21. And it says, "Thou shalt neither vex a stranger nor oppress him, for ye were strangers in the land of Egypt." Now, the word vex means make someone feel annoyed or frustrated. So I'll read it again. "Thou shalt neither annoy a stranger nor oppress him, for ye were strangers in the land of Egypt." It does sound better this way, doesn't it? Thou shalt neither annoy a stranger nor oppress him, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. Okay. Now we got two words left. The next one is wrath. It's in Genesis chapter 4, verse 6. Genesis 4, verse 6. And it says, And the Lord said unto Cain, Why art thou wroth? And why is thy countenance fallen? And the word wroth means angry. So we flip it and we say, And the Lord said unto Cain, Why are you angry? And why is your countenance fallen? And our last word is yoke. We can find that in Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 48. Deuteronomy 28, 48. And it says, Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things, and he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he has destroyed thee. Okay, the word yoke means burdensome or weight. So I'll flip it and read it again. Thou shalt, therefore, shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things, and shall put a weight of iron upon thy neck until he hath destroyed thee. Again, more clear, more concise, more better to understand. Okay, that does it for today. Now, this message, it wasn't something that to hoop and holler about. It wasn't earth shattering. It wasn't any great revelations, but anything that we learn from the Bible, it is a good thing. It is a great thing. And sometimes it's not about, getting all that from what I just said, but sometimes it's just taking in things and learning and growing from it. And this lesson is one of those situations where I hope you take it and learn from it and grow and apply it to your everyday lives, especially, like I said, when you read, don't just skip over things, don't just gloss over things, but attempt to know every word that you come across for better understanding. I pray you were blessed and edified by this message. And if you were, please give me a like and subscribe and pass it on to some of your friends, or matter of fact, all of your friends. Peace and many blessings to you.